the focus of a lot of the marketing and advertising is on the entry point. When you're 11 books into a series, you cannot market book 11 to a new reader, except for a very, very specific type of reader that is like, oh yeah, give me if. But otherwise, what I'm always focused on is, here is this book one. Like, all the book ones have to be really, really strong to be a good entry point for the world. And if I can get them into the book one, then book 2, 3, 4, other series, it will make it easier to get to 11. But yeah, it's harder to market a book 11 than, say, a book 3 that ends a trilogy. It's a whole different ball game. It's more sort of playing the long game, being happier with the smaller sort of day-by-day wins or increases, at the same time being, keeping an eye out for the right opportunities, is how we survive as an author. You keep working on the one thing that you have, you try to find better ways to use what you already have while also planning for what comes next.
Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pint and Portal Author Podcast. I am back after taking a few weeks off. I was in London, and although my plan was to record and upload these episodes, my plan was to upload the episodes that I had recorded before I had left. My internet connection wasn't amazing when I was in London. I was technically on holidays, and so I decided that I wasn't going to stress about the internet and trying to get the episodes up. I've said before, this podcast has to be a casual venture for me, as it's a side project. On top of my day job and my writing, this is something that I do for fun. I have these conversations with other authors because I want to learn, and I really just want to pass that learning off and back to you. So I do thank you for listening in and being here. But that said, that's why I have had a break the last few weeks. Yeah, so just a quick update for me. I did go to the Self-Publishing Show Live convention in London. The Self-Publishing Show is another show that is about writing and writing advice. The show was great. I had a great time. I learned a lot. The primary lesson that I really learned, though, in the same vein as a lot of these interviews and conversations that I'm having, is that I really just need to focus on getting my books out and reaching the right audience. So that's what I'm going to be doing over the course of the second half of this year. It's hard for me to believe that we are in July already. So with that said, I know that my episode releases have been fairly irregular for the first half of this year. That has been both intentional and also just a product of trying to prioritize my writing. But I do want to have a regular schedule. And with my writing, I don't think that having weekly episodes is really feasible if I'm going to take the time that I need to meet my writing goals and my publishing goals for the next 6 to 12 months. So that said, I will be trying to do regular releases. They will just be bi-weekly instead, at least until further notice, where I think that my schedule can accommodate a more frequent release, which honestly I'd love to do this weekly. I'd love chatting with authors every week. I really do enjoy this part of what I'm doing right now, but I just have to be mindful that right now my target is my books, is my writing outside of my day job, and I only have a limited number of hours in a day, and I can't sacrifice any more sleep or quality time with my family or really anything else. My schedule is full. And so what I am doing is dedicating one day a week to the podcast in my off hours. What that will look like for me, if you care, is going to be, let's say a Thursday. If Thursday is the day I choose to work on the podcast, it will be one day is going to be working on interviews and actually conducting the interview and possibly outreach to potential guests, and then the next Thursday will be editing and uploading the episode. Because even though you've heard me talk about how the tools with Riverside, which is the program that I use to record and edit, they've gotten really good and they have incredibly sped up my process. It's not zero. It's not a zero amount of time. So I just want to be a little bit more mindful of how I'm spending the time on this podcast and how it relates to the other tasks I have at hand. That said, next week, if you're listening to this the week that the podcast comes out on July 2nd, I will not have a pre-recorded episode, but I will be having a guest live tap session with MJ Kuhn. MJ, you might know from the SFF Addicts podcast. She's one of the co-hosts with Adrian Gibson, who I did a live tap session with last month. I'm going to be chatting with MJ about Kill Switch Protocol, which is her exciting new cyberpunk book that will be coming out next week. So we're going to be chatting just a couple days after it comes out. We are going to talk about that. And we're going to be talking about her transition from traditional publishing to self-publishing, because her previous two fiction works, Among Thieves and Thick as Thieves, are both traditionally published, and her latest work is self-published. So it'll be interesting to get that perspective. Head over to my YouTube channel. Make sure you're subscribed so that you get the notification. Plan the event. I'll try to have the event posted by the time this episode is live. But if not, just hit subscribe and you should get the notification. We are going live Thursday, July 9th, 5:30 Mountain Time, 7:30 Eastern Time. Come on by, ask questions from both of us. It's gonna be a fun time. For today, I have a friend of mine who you have heard name dropped probably half dozen times on this show already. I promised that we were going to get him on several months back already, but I had a chat with Andy Peloquin. It was like the day before I took off for London. So it was a little bit scattered during this interview. Hopefully you don't pick up on that too much, but we had a good time. Andy is a wealth of information and he has such charisma and ability to sell both in person and online. Please do check out his social media profiles, which I'll link in the show notes, because he does a great job mixing both selling as an author and reaching out to readers kind of as a reader. And he reads an incredible amount and writes an incredible amount. I don't know how he has the time to do everything that he does, but we're going to chat today about all that. So we'll dig into his strategies for selling and how he manages such a catalog and how he has turned his love of writing into a successful author career. Stick around. I know you're going to love it. Hello and welcome back to the Pint and Portal Author Podcast. I've got an incredible guest with me here today, probably the most cited author on the Pint and Portal Author Podcast, Andy Peloquin. You wouldn't believe the number of guests I've had that have name dropped you over the last couple of months. It's been incredible. You are seemingly everywhere. And I don't know if you're seemingly everywhere. I think you're actually everywhere. But, from Andrew Buckley to JDL Rosell, I had Michael Michelle on the other day, or it'll be a few weeks ago when this comes out. But yeah, everyone's talking about you. So welcome here. We've got the man, the myth, and the legend himself.
Thank you for having me. I don't know if I can actually live up to that introduction, because now I have to say things that make me sound very, very smart. Unless everybody, they're all my friends, so they're like, "Oh, that Andy dude is just an asshole." I can live up to that easy, low bar to clear.
Things to say. And, Andy, we finally we've been chatting on social media, I think, for a couple of years now. We finally got to meet in the fall, at Pentacon in Penticton, which was incredible to finally get to meet you face to face. And, it was a lot of fun at the event. And I know that we have some Penticton people that do follow the show too. So I know
Yeah.
they were happy to see you. Yeah.
It was so much fun. It was the best little con that I've been to.
Right? For such a small city,
Yeah.
they put together a really impressive con for sure.
It's great.
Yeah.
And Lillian and the team, they were so lovely. If I
Mhm.
was less busy, I would go back every year.
100%.
Fortunately,
100%.
I am too busy.
Yeah, like I said, you're seemingly everywhere, but for those who maybe don't know you or know your background a bit, give us a little bit of a quick introduction of who you are and how writing became kind of an interest of yours.
So, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Andy Peloquin. I am the author of, it's not quite 50. We're closing in on 50 books. So we're gonna say 45 to keep it in nice even numbers.
There we go.
It's a lot of these that are up here. You can see them. Some of them are
Yeah.
great big chunky monsters, or just normal human-sized fantasy books. I have been writing full time. Well, I was writing full time since 2018
Wow.
until September of last year, where I took a job as the director of publicity for Athon Books.
Right.
And that has slashed my writing time in half. It has increased my travel time and my hang out with cool people time. So, it's the good with the bad with the good. But it's been a wild ride. Like the fact that this year I'm attending 10 different conventions.
Wow.
some capacity. And
Yeah.
like the convention of it all is so much fun, but then it's the people that I get to like see and hang out with or meet. Like just so I went to Dragonsteel at the end of last year, and it was just a social event. Like, yeah, sure, there was all the
Right.
convention activities, so much cool stuff, but
Yeah.
the real like benefit for me was just walking around the floor, hanging out with this Instagram friend that I'd known for years, or this author who,
Yeah.
like, I got to meet some people that I have been talking to since I started writing in 2013 and 14 for the
Wow.
first time at Dragonsteel, and it was such a
Yeah.
delight. So I'm having so much fun with the social aspect of the new job.
For sure. Yeah, that's always the fun part about conventions is getting to meet other authors and chatting with them and hanging out. And, especially like I go to some of these writing conferences and the instruction is great. The workshops that they have are, fantastic, but really you're going to be able to chat with your other author friends and that's where the real learning happens, to be honest, right? Um, and realistically that is the concept behind the format of this show is that I miss chatting with other authors at these conferences. Let's bring them to me and even if virtually. So yeah, so very cool. So you started full-time 2017. What was what happened around that time, I guess, that led to you deciding that full-time writing was something that you were able to pursue?
Well, I self-published my very first book in 2014. Find it anywhere. It is deleted from the internet, obviously, like things can definitely be.
Right.
And then
Yes, of course.
I published the series that is currently Darkblade through a small press in 2015,
Hmm.
and then the Queen of Thieves series through a different small press in 2016. And both did amazing work with the editing, with the packaging, but where lot of small presses fall short is with the publicity, the marketing, the advertising, all of that. Because it's such a like a full-time thing, and if you don't have somebody on staff to do that, it's tough. So when I saw the sort of lack of results in terms of sales, I decided, okay, I need to learn this. So I basically
Right.
spent all of 2016 and 17 learning advertising and marketing and building a newsletter and doing all the stuff that goes
Okay.
into making the author career work. And then I got the rights back to both series in late 2017, early 2018. And so then I repackaged them with new covers and relaunched them myself rather than with the small press. And the series that is now Darkblade took off where it made more, like it sold more in 3 months than I had made in the 2 years before that as a
Wow.
copywriter. I was like,
Wow.
okay, there's actual potential for this to work. So it's basically
Right.
been keeping that rock slowly rolling uphill ever since.
For sure, for sure. Well, and that's I think from what I gathered from a lot of authors, sometimes it's just building upon some of that momentum and keeping it going, and it's kind of slow until it's not a lot of times. And when you've got 45 books out, um, you've got quite a backlist that you're able to pull from. So now so 2017 is a that's just we're just about at 10 years now for 2017. So I'm going to assume that what worked in 2017 for marketing is probably not, or maybe it is what works today in 2026.
Things have changed so much so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about that because that is I mean a lot of indie authors, that's a long career for an indie author, as for as far as longevity goes. What worked then that doesn't work now, and what has kind of filled that void for you?
Back in 2018, 2018 was around the time that the photo manipulation covers were pretty normal.
Mhm.
2020, totally phased out. Like 1 year to the next, super fast. It became like 3D, like the Daz covers, right? Where it's like the photo the sort of animation
3D
generated
model
thing.
kinda thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then by 2020, 21, gone, totally out of style. To where now if you see somebody who has one of those covers, you're like, ah, that's not great. And that's where I became very intentional with doing things like the rebranding of Darkblade, the recovers for the Queen of Thieves, because I wanted like books that wouldn't go out of style. I wanted evergreen content that would just look awesome.
Right.
20 years from now, the artwork of Darkblade will still look amazing. 20
Yeah.
years from now, this will still just be a beautiful piece of art. Whether, the book sells or not, the artwork itself will endure. So
Right.
that was the intention behind kind of relaunching, redoing all of that. Back
Mhm.
then, 99-cent books and box sets, they had a lot of selling power. Now it's a very different story. They don't move the needle anywhere near as much. They still have some power, especially if you've got a series that's not selling quite as much. You can box set it and sell it, and it's got a chance to revive it. But that's not sort of a thing of the past. What is very powerful right now is like Kickstarter, sort of crowdfunding products, and then
Mhm.
social media. Those two are like
Right.
the big drivers right now.
Okay. Yeah, so and yeah, let's talk about your covers just for a quick second because yeah, they're incredible and they are illustrated. Now you are writing dark fantasy, epic fantasy, so that's somewhat genre dependent as well, right? Like your cover style is obviously what people are seeing first and what they're associating your books to be essentially, right? Yeah. Yeah, and I think that for fantasy especially, I feel like the illustrated covers, while some might eventually look dated as far as old style or not, there's still you'll pick it up and you'll know it's a fantasy book. You'll know it's an epic fantasy book, and that's gonna bring people to your books, right?
Even if you go back to the artwork by like Frank Frazetta, or the artwork that was done on the early David Gemmell covers, there are aspects of it that are a little bit outdated, but there's
Mhm.
so much of it that's just it's still beautiful artwork. Like, artwork has endured for thousands of years. What is in style may have changed, but you can still go and look at the Mona Lisa. You can still go and look at, the cuneiform in Egypt, and there's still some beauty to be found in that. So that's
Absolutely.
that's kind of the thing that is the staying power of art. This is where AI, I think, will always fall short, is that it's missing that sort of comprehension of not the technique, not the perfection of, the features or anything like that, but sort of the humanity that makes art amazing. I read this thing one time where it was talking about how a photograph is like a frozen moment in time. So somebody who is very good looking in real life, they're not photogenic. They don't freeze well. Whereas a painting or a sketch, a piece of art, is how the artist perceives a person. So it's almost more
Mm,
like through that human lens. And that is where art will always have the most power, because it's a human's
yeah,
experience of another human.
absolutely. And I mean, that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think yeah, and to that point, like a human artist just captures what you as, the author, obviously you're putting together your art. The name is escaping me. I come up with words. Yes, your art is brief. I'm a writer. I make
It
up words all the
happens to me
time.
all the
Yes.
time.
Yes, your art is brief. So you're trying to convey to your artist what, how you want the emotion and the feeling and all that to be captured in the piece of art. And I mean, an AI just cannot do that, right? It can, yeah. Um, so, so from there, yeah, so you said social media and Kickstarters, are those pretty much the two driving forces that are driving your author income at this point? Because I know that you also do a lot of events and that sort of thing. Um, looking at, I guess, the landscape of your author sphere right now, and I realize there's probably a lot of pieces coming from different directions, but what pieces of those pie are you looking at?
I would say that my author career currently is built off of a newsletter where I am in contact with people who I've been,
Mm,
engaging with for years.
mhm,
Um, my advertisements, like I'm always running ads on Facebook, on Amazon, on Instagram now, to keep people coming to my website or going to Amazon and checking it, like always finding new readers.
mhm,
The strength of the backlist is definitely a big factor in terms of direct sales. So I do a lot of direct sales through my website because I
Right.
have this suggested reading order that's like, hey, you like Darkblade? You're going to read the first 4 and then you're going to go to Queen of Thieves. So Darkblade is selling Queen of Thieves, and then Queen of Thieves
Right.
sells back into Darkblade. And then once you get through Darkblade 1 through 5 in the Queen of Thieves, you have to go to Heirs of Destiny to actually have the full experience. And then you come back. And so everything kind of feeds into itself. And I've been very intentional about that from the beginning, because every time that I think of my favorite world, I just want more of it. Right?
Right.
You give me more the Lies of Loch Lamora world. You give me more of the Dritstawarden world. You give me more of the First Law world. It's the world as I know it, and then you just explore little, pieces of people and, slices of their existence through the adventure, but it's a
Hmm.
very familiar setting, and I love that familiar setting. So the authors who do that, who connect things in this big way, I will always read their books more than the authors who are like, now I am jumping to a totally different world that you have to learn this whole new set of rules. There is just that like slight cognitive difficulty of, oh, now I have to learn a whole new set of rules for a
Hmm.
world when I already loved something before. So I want people to have like the lowest barrier to entry into my world. So you read any one of my series, you'll know the gods, you'll know the religious orders, you'll have a really good sense of kind of the society. People can all be kind of shit in various degrees, but there's always decent
Hmm.
human beings. And it's all just the various levels of darkness and violence, naturally, but the world overall follows a very specific tone, which then means that I, as a writer, have that same tone. And I can break out of it.
Right.
I'm writing other projects that are a little bit more comedic, but I can tie them into what I'm writing. Or I went with sci-fi, and it just so happens that the guy flies over the world where all the fantasy takes place, and it's off limits because of unstable energy readings, aka magic, and it's conceivable that everything's happening at the same time. So there's always this
Yeah.
sense of interconnectedness, which, as a Marvel Comics reader, that's kind of where I got my start in all of this. I wanted to
Mm.
do that. So that's the fact that
Yeah.
I can tell people, look, if you start with Darkblade or Queen of Thieves, you will have to read through 5 of my 6 series to get the full picture of the world. It's great for
Right.
sales, and it's great for
Yes.
people who just want more of what they love.
100%. And I find I enjoy that too, especially, even if the stories aren't directly connected to one another. I love when you find an Easter egg of, whatever world that, these stories happen to be taking place in. I mean, I enjoy that a lot as a reader as well. So, but you had that concept from the very beginning, or is this something that kind of just progressed as the story progressed?
Happened from the beginning. So I wrote the first book of what is now Darkblade, and then I think the second one, and then I signed up for this sort of workshop, writer's workshop. No, I wrote the first one, and I signed up for this writer's workshop, and they said, you can't write the second book. You have to write something totally new. And I was like, well, shit, I did all this awesome world building. I had such a
Right.
cool thing. Why? I don't want to do this all over again. It was my first book that I'd done it, basically. So I
Yes.
don't want to build a whole new world. So I was like, oh, the hunter pretended to be a nobleman from this city that's 10 days away. We don't talk about that city anymore, but it's mentioned, it's connected. So all I have to do is just build up this new city. Same world, same religion, same God, same tone, but different city. And then, oh, as I'm writing book 2, oh, where should she go on an adventure? Well, the hunter city. Stay off the rooftops or he's going to kill you. All of a sudden, things started to get more interesting. And then after that, it was like these two characters, people said, we need a crossover. That really cemented it in my mind that people just want more of the characters that they love. So then I did the sequel spin-off of their young adult characters, and then I set the military series across the ocean. Then coming back to redo Darkblade, it was like, how do I weave all these threads together? And
Hmm.
in the weaving, I found that all of the series kind of made Darkblade, but then also each other richer. So I had written the Silent Champion series, which is right there above my head. There we go. Um, that was the last fantasy series that I wrote before I came back to rewrite Darkblade. And one of the characters, his whole life's mission is to find this thing. And ultimately, the mission is complete. He finds the thing. And there was this lovely emotional payoff at the end of the series for this character. But then as I was getting into writing Darkblade, I was like, well, what if I can make that character's emotional payoff be central to the hunter's success? Like, without this thing, he would have died. All of a sudden, everything that I did in the Silent Champions matters to Darkblade, and then by extension, they saved the world, right? Or the same thing
Right.
with the Queen of Thieves series. Queen of Thieves, Alana hires the hunter to go after somebody that she can't kill, and it turns out that that guy is a critical pawn in the criminal organization that ultimately goes after the hunter and sparks all the revenge stuff in Darkblade. So she is kind of indirectly responsible for saving the world. And it's kind of a fun thing because all of a sudden the character's small actions in terms of the world at large, like she never actually does anything more than kills the drug dealers who are, screwing with her city. But because she hires the hunter, world is saved because of the whole
Yeah.
thing that and then being able
Right.
to weave her back into it in the later books, and then the whole Night Guild, the role that they're going to play in the hunter's journey at large. It's just like, why not tie everything closer and closer and closer together in any way
100%.
the more you can. So the one that I'm working on right now is it's a new book, new series set in a different world planet. There's basically this empire that is fighting to bring light to drive back this force of chaos. It just chaos embodied. Anybody who reads Darkblade and gets to Darkblade 4 will see, wait a minute, why does that name sound so familiar? Then it's a very easy connection. This is a world, Darkblade is a world where this force of evil is contained. This other world is not.
Right.
Then there is this metal, it's this divine metal, and it's the same tech metal that is used in Cerberus. So it's just like everything is connected in these really
Yeah.
fun ways. And building this like I did, or like I have, and like I continue to do, it's what makes sure readers never have excuse to be like, well, I don't really like the tonal shift so much, or it
Right.
feels like something so different in a bad way than what you write. It's like, well, you liked this, let me give you, like, the one that I'm writing right
Yeah.
now is basically Darkblade with a different skin. So anybody who
Okay.
loves Darkblade, you'll be like, you're going to love this too. And it feels different
Absolutely. Yeah.
enough that it stands apart, but it's
Right.
close enough that it's just more of what you love.
Yeah. I mean, I love all that so much. I love that you worked that out ahead of time. And I love that you're connecting your sci-fi to your fantasy. Because to me that is what I'm trying to do, but more retroactively. Um, and yeah, I just really do love all those pieces when they fit together, and you've got a story obviously that can be read on its own, but you'll get more fulfillment out of the world if you read all of the, side stories and different series and that sort of thing. Um, I want to talk a moment again, the selfish questions here. So you mentioned briefly that you rewrote Darkblade, and I'm going back. I'm in the process right now. Actually, I have it here because I've been rereading it. My very first book was and again, you won't be able to get this soon. So plug if you want to read the original, because I am working on on the rewrite of it. Cringe-worthy. Um, did you go through the rewrite when you got your rights back to it, or what stage did you do a rewrite of that story?
A rewrite 5 years later. So I released the series. It was called Hero of Darkness, and this was back in 2018. And I released 7 books, which is the first 6 were the story arc, and then the first story arc, and then the 7th was the crossover with the Night Guild. And I always knew I needed to do more because it set things up to go off into the Heirs of Destiny series, and I wanted to do more of the Hunter story because I set up something at the end of his series that was like, here is so much more emotional torment that I can dump on you. I just
Hmm.
wanted to basically build this YA. So I had grim dark for the Queen of Thieves. I had dark epic fantasy for Hero of Darkness. I wanted YA because YA was popular at the time, and then I wanted military because military was at the time. So right now, I can ask a fantasy reader, "What book do you like?" and I have an answer that I can give them. So
Right.
I did that intentionally.
Yeah.
Then I
Okay.
came back after basically 4 years, and all these other series and the Darkblade series had stopped selling. It's just the way that it goes. Eventually, books stop selling. Um, and I realized I had already done a repackaging of just the cover to do it when I got the rights back. So I couldn't do that again to
Hmm.
relaunch it. And I had written 32 books at that point. So I was like, if I can't make this book that much better after all these years of experience, doing the wrong thing with my life. It was basically I hired a developmental editor who went
Okay.
through the first 4 books. I knew the first 4 books needed to kind of be retooled.
Hmm.
Um, 5 and 6, they're basically got combined into what is now Darkblade 4 without more than 2,000 words worth of changes between the two
Really?
books. Like it was,
Okay.
yeah,
That
it was the
pretty
perfect
clean.
first and second halves of the end of this journey. But the first 3, or what was the first 4 then, needed to be reworked. So basically, I chopped up book 2, put half into what is now book 1, and then half into what was then book 3, which is now book 2. And then book 4 was basically doubled in size to what is now book 3. So it's this basic, like it is a total reboot.
So you did, yeah,
But
a
at
complete
at the
reboot.
same
Yeah,
time, like I've told people for years, it's the exact same character you know and love. It's the exact same journey overall. It's just so much like the emotions behind it is different. It's also twice as long and 10 times more epic because you get to watch him in the first one literally destroy the entire criminal organization that he almost did a montage of destroying in the original version. I'm like, no, 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 no. If he's going to take down this organization, we want all those deaths on
we
screen.
want to
So I
see
think
it.
I did a
Yeah.
body count, and it was like 350 on-screen deaths in
Wow.
Darkblade 1. And
Wow.
one man doing all of this. And it was so fun because it was a challenge to be like, how do I do all of this killing in creative ways, in a way that doesn't get boring or stale, or, oh yeah, he's going to kill somebody else again,
For sure.
and still weave the emotional arc throughout. So it ended up being a
Yeah.
like a great creative challenge, a huge challenge, but
Hmm.
it's one that I think I'm immeasurably happy with, and it makes me a little bit of a unicorn in that I don't think anybody else has ever rebooted a series in this way before to this level of success. Like since rebooting Darkblade, I think I have sold more than I did the original versions.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I mean, with that, I mean, you've probably also learned more about marketing, more about how to, and you've got, this 45 book catalog. And I mean, everything that you've learned, I mean, cumulatively has kind of built on your ability to relaunch the book. Did you do a full relaunch, I guess, campaign of it as well? Did you treat it like a brand new book kind of, when you set it
Yeah,
up? Yeah.
absolutely. New covers, new ad strategy, everything from the ground up, while still having the dedicated fan base that had read and loved it. So
And loved it the first time.
it was very much it was very intentional in that aspect,
Hmm.
because I knew what people wanted. I knew what they loved, or I thought I knew. We can never really know, but I had
Hmm.
a pretty good handle on what it was about this character that people really really loved. And so I just kind of
Because
did more of all of that.
yeah, yeah, because you had a fan base that already loved it, so you knew what they liked about it, and you were able to emphasize those points of the story. So, and sorry, and how long ago was that then?
It's 2021, 5 years.
2021. Okay. So, I think that I mean, as an indie, now that since you got your rights back and were able to self-publish it, you have the control to be able to take something that isn't doing what you want it to be doing. Especially, I mean, the first books of your series you want to be doing well because that's obviously the entry point. Um, but you have that ability to go back and rework it and represent it as something fresh and new that fits your reader base more potentially than it is, which I think is fantastic. That's entirely what I'm doing with my first series because it's not finished. So my impetus was, okay, I've actually got to finish this series. Going back to read it, I wrote this one 2019 into 2020. Yeah, and it's rough. It's rough going back to read your first book. Because this was my first book. This wasn't, my first published book. It's my first book. And I'm like, man, how did anyone let me push the publish button on this thing? But you learn so much from there. This is, I'm 13 books in now. So I hope that I can look at this and be like, yeah, I can do better than this. Um, but I'm also doing kind of what you did from the get go um, with my Greatest in the Multiverse series. There's a magic system in this, even though like I branded it as sci-fi dystopia because I didn't know what I was doing with branding and genre and such. There's a magic system that fits perfectly with the magic system I've already developed in my cozy fantasy series. So I'm like, okay, well, this is my opportunity to go back, rework it, and bring it into a more of the fantasy story that probably is, even though it's going to be science fantasy. Um, but to that point that we were talking about, there's Easter eggs and that sort of thing that people are going to be able to spot when it comes out. Yeah. Um, So yeah, I mean, those things are so much fun, and I really enjoy an expansive universe like that.
And even
Yeah,
even if so, I have a series coming out next year, tonally very different than anything I've written, and we'll say that it's set on a totally different world. But after I did the Dragon Blood Assassin series, which was also a different world, and I spent a lot of time figuring out how to tie it into Darkblade and that world, it's been something that I'm very hyper focused on no matter what I write, whether I write something in the existing world or go somewhere else. How do I tie it to everything else so that if I get a new reader with this series and then they go read everything else, they will be instantly intrigued because they see something that they recognize or there's been some connection to something else. So
yeah,
it's very much aware that every new series can directly sell every other series done right.
yeah, and that is intriguing to me too because obviously you have worked to do that, but basically your every book you write is marketing for your other books.
Exactly.
hmm So so now when you launch a new book, um, I know you've got different threads of series within this universe. How do you market a book now that you're so far into this world to new readers, or are you just marketing the new book to existing readers and you're still marketing the entry points to new readers? Like, what does that look like for you?
So book 11, what I did with book 11 is that I did a pre-order special on my website because I want to drive pre-orders of the physical book directly from me. I basically want to teach people to come to me to buy books when they can. Darkblade is Kindle exclusive, Kindle Unlimited on ebook,
Really?
and Tantor owns the right on audiobook. But if I can tell them, hey, come to me for the paperback, sign it, I can personalize it, I can make it something a little bit special. For this pre-order special, I am handwriting notes to everybody who ordered it with some tidbit of what's to come or some detail from the past. And
Right.
that's writing, right? But it's
Yeah.
something very special for them. I love it because I get to feel like people care about me and I get to give them something back that they love. I know that if I got that from an author whose books, I'm collecting, hell yeah. So
100%.
so that's been a big drive behind the things that I'm launching right now. At the same
Okay.
time, the focus of a lot of the marketing and advertising is on the entry point. And you're 11 books into a series, you cannot market book 11 to a new reader, except for a very, very specific type of reader that is like, oh yeah, give me. If this is
11
somebody
books,
who has
I'm
read
in.
Wheel of Time or Malazan and is looking for more, they're my target audience, and I want to be like, come, I have more books for you than they do.
Yeah.
But otherwise, what I always focused on is here is this book one. Like all the book ones have to be really, really strong to be a good entry point for the world. And if I
Mhm.
can get them into the book one, then book two, three, four, other series will make it easier to get to 11. But yeah, it's harder to market a book 11 than say a book 3 that ends a trilogy. It's a whole different ball game. It's more sort of playing the long game, being happier with the smaller sort of day by day ins or increases, but knowing that I've still got four more books to write, meaning there are still four more, chances for me to do something really, really cool and level up the Darkblade series before I even have to think about, all right, do I want a bundle? Do I want a special edition? What do I want to do? This, the series in ebook, audio, and paperback alone are selling well enough that don't have to think about that stuff yet. At the same time, being, keeping an eye out for the right opportunities, is how you survive as an author. You
For
basically
sure.
you keep working on the one thing that you have. You try to find better ways to use what you already have while also planning for what comes next.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, and you got also your books aren't short by any means either. So when you're selling someone book one, they might not hit book 11 for a few years, right? Depending on who the reader is, and people. I don't necessarily start book one and read straight through. I'll jump around with different series and eventually come back to it, right? So you're really investing in a reader who you're hoping is going to stick around for a long time, that they're not going to put the book down and forget about you the next time you're trying to bring them back.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
that's the point of a great story and a great hook ending. And again, a lot of marketing is just about being where readers are so they remember
Hmm.
you.
Yeah. And I think, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about your direct sales. But first of all, on that thread, um, bringing people into your ecosystem on your website, you're able to kind of ensure that they continue to hear from you again. If they buy your book on Amazon, you have no idea that who they are, or if they'll ever, come back to you. So what do you do on your website to, is there like any sort of retargeting campaigns or anything like that that you were able to do to bring, to stay in touch with those readers?
There is a very simple offer up front where if you sign up for my newsletter, you get 10% off. So that right there, I get 5 to 10 signups in a day. Actually, let me see
Wow.
if I can get you some numbers right now.
Yeah.
Let's see. In this, so I started this offer. Maybe I created this in June of last year.
Right. Yeah. I remember you
And
mentioning it at Pentacon, but yeah.
and since then, with nothing other than, you come to my website for my ads from everything, it's got 1,300 subscribers.
Wow.
Nothing else other
That's
than that.
incredible.
Yeah, and the open rate is nothing crazy. It's a 37% open rate,
About average. Yeah.
2% click rate, but the fact that it's really costing me only a little bit off the actual sale, but
Hmm.
then people are getting the book, they're getting targeted over and over and over again with the newsletters, they're connecting with me. It's so worth that effort.
Right.
um and I have been way too busy with all the Athon stuff and trying to write the next book and marketing and doing all the million things to actually put much thought and time into like a retargeting campaign. But I know that when the time comes that I actually do it, it will have great effect because it'll be, hey, here's the next book. Here's the book. Like I'm going to launch another Queen of Thieves novella next in June, which I don't know if this is next month, depending on what time, when the
It'll
podcast
be
airs.
Yeah, right. It'll be soon. It'll be, if it's not already out, it'll be up very soon. Yeah.
I will launch another book and it will be in all formats on my website. I'm not publishing it on Audible. I'm not publishing it in ebook on Amazon. It's just going to be available on my website. And I
Only on
can
your website.
retarget
Okay.
all of those people and say, hey, you've loved the Queen of Thieves series. This story is set between book 1 and 2. It's going to fuck you up. Joy. The
Yep.
number of books that it will sell because it exists in a series that they already love makes it so much better. And so this is
Right.
another part of the intentionality behind what I'm doing. I submit to a lot of anthologies, or I get contacted to participate in anthologies, and so all the stories that I'm writing are either like a prequel or a side character from one of my series, or I'm doing one now that sort of there is this character who is, I'm calling her my murder nurse, sort of serial killer vigilante healer. I'm writing a bunch of short stories of her so that by the time 2 or 3 years passes, I can put this collection together and you'll get this really
Nice.
fun, almost Batman
Oh, that's cool.
adventure journey of all the
Yeah.
people whose lives she's helped and all the people that the bad people that she's murdered. And so you get to do these kind of things, but you have to be intentional and put some forethought into it. It's going to take me
Sure.
2 years probably before I have enough stories because I can only submit to maybe 3 or 4 anthologies a year around all the books that I'm writing. But By
Right.
the end of those 2 or 3 years, I will have 15 stories, and it could be a nice big chunky book that I can tell people, "Here is something totally new,"
Right.
and for
And
many of them, it will be.
even for those who, maybe they have read a story of yours in one anthology and they realize, oh, there's an entire anthology of stories of this character that I loved, and it's something they can grab and pick up. Yeah, I like that a lot. And with the novella, I mean I had Katie Cross on. I don't know if you know Katie. Um, a few weeks ago, and she was talking about direct sales, and what she does is she has a link in her books that she sells on Amazon to the novella that's only on her website, so that to get those Amazon readers into her website ecosystem as well. Yeah, I'm like, well, that's a really cool strategy because it's not a freebie, but they can only buy it on her website.
Yeah.
So then she captures those people who she knows likes her series, but maybe are have only been comfortable on Amazon until that point, and training them basically to purchase direct.
And
So
it's a
yeah.
long-term strategy in the sense it's
Hmm.
I think when I talked to Katie about it a year or 2 ago, she was like, "It's gonna take you anywhere between 1 and 5 years to build a
Absolutely.
sizable audience, unless you go viral like some people do," and it's awesome when that happens, but
Yeah.
not counting on that. I have barely had that kind of, "Holy shit, this is so cool, things happen." I have been a grinder since day 1, so
Yeah.
thinking about that, it's like, all right, I can grind away for 5 years to build a big enough audience that when I drop a new book, if I drop it on Kickstarter, if I drop it on Amazon, or if I drop it just on my website, I have enough people buying it that it's making good money.
And Yeah, I mean, and it is true. It's not an overnight thing most of the time, right? Um and it takes intention from the get-go, and it's something when I look at when I started my publishing journey, it was not with any intention. It was I want to write a book, and that was and that's fine, but for people that want to write long term and build a career out of it, there's got to be some of that planning. And yeah, and so now the other question I want to ask you about direct sales is because I know you're in Canada. How do you manage paperback and hardcover sales with the shipping? Because that's something that
Yeah.
is it a barrier for your readers, or are you figuring something else out?
Was a huge barrier for the first year or so that I did it. There were people in the States who still were like, "No, I want this badly enough." Um, I did do the workaround of signed book plates. Like, I custom designed book plates that looked really cool, and I could just ship that to them, and then buy copies from Amazon and send it to them at the author price. But in since we moved down to Vancouver, we are about 25 minutes from the border, and as an American citizen, I'm dual nationality. I get to like I applied for the paperwork for my corporation, my Canadian corporation, to operate a warehouse, shipping and fulfilling situation in the U.S. So I cross the border
Okay,
and send books
so you've
off.
got to work around. Okay,
Yeah.
good to know. I can't do that unfortunately, but yeah, but to that point, yeah, because I was going to mention since you're in the Vancouver area, and I'm adding them as a I have a referral link for people who are interested in Canada, because I've used Stallion Express. I don't know if you've heard of them. Um, they have branches in a lot of the major centers, but you can get access to media mail rates in the US through them. Basically, you purchase the sticker from them for the postage, and they'll like truck it across the border and drop it in the mail. I don't know how they've worked that
Oh,
out, but I've used that for
yeah.
my Kickstarters in the past, and it was just a huge savings. So,
Nice.
yeah, I'll drop that link for people, in the
Oh,
show notes. But, so yeah, so that's what I was curious if you were using that because I know you're closer to Vancouver now. Yeah, it's always a barrier I find for Canadian authors who are trying to do that sort of thing. I'm doing mostly print on demand right now on my website. The book plates is something that I've wanted to do. I just haven't gotten around to it as a workaround for that. Um, but yeah, occasionally I'm surprised by the people who are willing to pay for shipping. I've had orders from New Zealand and Singapore, and I'm like, I am really surprised you're willing to pay for the shipping. I'm very glad, but I think sometimes we discount those things as well. Someone's never going to want to do that, so I'm not going to offer it. But it surprises you.
Yeah,
So
it happens,
yeah.
people who live like me as Canadians, we're used to paying high shipping prices for whatever we buy. Australians even more so, or people in whatever Japan even more so. So
Mhm.
if it's part of their life, it's less of a barrier to entry than for people who are used to paying medium L prices or get free shipping within the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sometimes hard to think, I can't compete with Amazon Prime free shipping. Like, it's just I would lose money doing that. But there are alternatives out there, and you just have to kind of be flexible with how you
Yeah,
approach it,
100%.
right? Yeah. Yeah, really cool. Um, so I really like the way that you have built up the foresight to kind of build up your mailing list, bring in your readers like this. For your series and or series is, how far in advance do you have them planned out? Like, how much of this universe do you have planned that you're looking at? Okay, here's where I'm going with this, um, and working your marketing plan along with that.
That would make me a much smarter person if I had foresight like that. What I did, the advanced sort of planning that I have is like, okay, what is a hole in my foundation, right? Right now, I have sci-fi. If there's somebody who's like, I never read fantasy, here's a sci-fi series. If I have somebody who says, oh, I don't want bloody things, I want something, lighter, I have a young adult action adventure series. If I get people who say, oh, I love Malazan Book of the Fallen, I got something for you. So that's where it's like, all right, what's the next hole that to be patched up?
Interesting.
So like right
Okay.
now I'm writing a lit RPG just because it's fun, but also lit RPG is a big genre. Maybe I will never be the big lit RPG author, but if there's one more product to offer people, it means I have more, you know, to 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 offer
Right.
essentially
Yeah.
fewer
And
a wider customer base.
yeah, and you write fast enough that you are able to kinda look at those trends and be like, "Okay, this is popular now, I can get a book out this year in this genre." Whereas, a lot of authors are either they're slower writers or they've got the day job, so they're, not able to produce books as quickly. Um, I had a question there, and it lost me, but that's okay. Um, around that note, though, of writing fast and, I know you read a ton as well. What kind of process like, what does your writing day look like? How many words about are you looking to get in a writing session or a day? Um, and and how are you writing so fast?
When I was writing sort of full time, it was mostly full time. I kept a little bit of day job stuff because, bad royalty months couldn't handle that. So it was like if I have income
Yeah.
coming in, I'm happy. I was doing 2 chapters a day, 5 days a week, and each chapter is 15 to 2,500 words. So that's
So about
one
4 to
writing
5,000.
session.
Okay.
Yeah. But you multiply that by 20, and that's 100,000 words in a month.
Right.
That's the scale that people don't really think about, but it's that daily consistency. Right
So
now, the book that I'm working on is a little bit more detailed. Like I'm more intentional with the writing, the word choices. So I am happy with 1,000 to 2,000 words.
okay.
I'm still trying to hit 4 chapters a week, which is about 8,000 words, let's say 6,500 to 9,000 words. If I can do
Right.
that, I'm happy with that. But that's around all the other stuff that I have going on, the Athon work and the social media and all of that. So
Yeah, right.
so it's definitely a lot less time. But what it comes down to, for me at least, is just knowing what I'm going to write that day. I don't have to have a plan for the entire book. Often I will, sometimes I won't. But if I know what chapter I'm working on right now and kind of how it ties into the story at large, then I can be like, can drive forward pretty consistently and confidently knowing that I'm on track, even if I have to adjust or if what I'm writing kind of pushes things away from my plan. It was the choice that I made in the moment, and I can figure out whether that plan keeps deviating or circles back in a way. But as opposed to figuring out, oh my God, I started with nothing and I'm all the way over here. What do I do? How do I land this ship? I know kind of where I want the ship to land,
Destination.
and then
Okay.
I figure out, all right, am I still on that track or do I need to shift the landing point or how do I do it? So that's
Yeah.
probably the biggest, let's say, the secret to my success, aside from the fact that I've gotten really good at ignoring the voice in my head that says that's shit writing. It's just part of being an experienced author is
Yeah.
realizing it may be shit writing, but I'm doing it anyways.
Right. Yeah, you can always fix it later, right? That's kind of what I tell myself. Like, this might not be what ends up in the book, but if it gets me to where I need to be right now. So you're not a full outliner then. You got kind of waypoints that you're looking to hit per book. Is that
Yeah, so
more or
I
less?
think I'm like 75% outliner and then 25% pantser in that I want to know where I'm going. I need to know the general direction of the story so that I can move forward confidently. And I know what the big plot points are, what the big conflicts are, all of that. But then so much flexibility and adaptability happens on a chapter by chapter basis that I make so much up. A lot of times I find myself writing in a direction I didn't expect, and I'm like, oh, I'll figure it out as I go, and I always do. Tons of stress naturally, but I always end up figuring it out because I've been doing this long enough that I can trust my brain will get me where I need to go and figure out the solution to the problem that I've written for myself.
Yeah, right. No, yeah, and that's the way it goes, isn't it? Like you're not always, or for me, I know I'm more of a pantser. I try so hard to outline, but it doesn't always work until I'm into the story and I really know what it needs. And then sometimes in retrospect, I'm like, this doesn't fit with a cohesive story or an interesting story. I need to like, or this character would never do this. What I had put in the outline, I need to kind of figure something else out to get to where the story needs to go. Right. Um, but I find that that can slow down my writing because I'm often second guessing where I'm going next. Yeah.
Which is the problem a lot of pantsers face in that they don't know where they're going, so they don't know if they're going the right direction, sort of scene by scene, story by story. I will say the strength of a pantser is that scene by scene things tend to be more interesting in the sense of
Mm,
you're always just trying to do the thing that feels, let's say, the most true or the most interesting. Whereas if
mhm.
you're a hard plotter, you're just going on a direction that you preordained for yourself 2 weeks, 2 months ago. Your brain has changed. You are a totally different person at this point. So the story
Yeah.
that you came up with before may no longer work. And this is where that adaptability, the 25% pantser for me is so important because yeah,
Hmm.
I thought this idea of the guy having this revelation that, he needs to be a better husband is the thing, but all of a sudden the book is about being a better sibling or a better father, way more interesting in the moment. And so
Yeah.
having that adaptability to say, oh no, this is where it's actually going, while still keeping the bigger plot points of, yeah, this is the monster they're going to have to kill. This is the guy who's definitely going to murder them if they don't make smart choices. You get to keep the plot points on track while letting the emotions flow a
Mm,
little bit, or the emotions on track while the plot meanders a little bit, but it still is heading
right.
in the right direction.
Right. I like that a lot. And that's, I think, a good overview of, making sure you've got the right pieces in place, but allowing yourself to kind of feel the story as you're writing it as well. Yeah. Um,
A big part of becoming a more experienced writer is learning to trust what you're feeling, but also being more like feeling more and being more aware of your feelings. A lot of times I'll get to a part where I'm like, oh, this feels wrong, and I have to take a minute to sit and think about why it feels wrong.
yeah.
Every single time that I felt that way, there has been a reason for it, and it always ends up better when I fix it, but I don't always know why it's wrong until you become aware of that and you're like, all right, now how do I fix this?
Yeah. Circling back a little bit, Andy, to, marketing and someone who's looking at becoming maybe, a full-time author, today in 2026, you've kind of seen the industry shift over the last, 10, 15 years. What would you suggest to someone who's maybe been writing, they've got a few books under their belt? What should they be looking at doing? What's kind of your recommendation for them?
Hey, I'm gonna boil it down to the things that my little empire is built on. Number one is the newsletter, right? Invest in the newsletter. If you haven't yet read it, go read Newsletter Ninja by Tammy Labrecque. The way that she breaks down the mindset of your reader as a human being as opposed to a potential customer, while also seeing them as a potential customer that you have to, figure out how to do that balance. Really, really good. Change the way that I approached my newsletter. Um, A lot of authors mention that my newsletter is one of the best ones that they've read because of the things that I learned in this book. So definitely worth it. Um, Take some time to build that by having a free story that you offer around, build that list. Get on social media, start learning the ins and outs of social media, and not just social media here, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book, but how to actually exist in the space with all the people who you want to buy your book. Like, there are a lot of authors who are very good at the sales aspect of social media, but they have no presence on social media beyond, hi, I'm an indie author, please buy my book in some capacity or another. I don't know about you, but I don't look at their videos because I know
No, that's
exactly
fair.
what it's going to be. It's going to
Yeah.
be, buy my book. Here's some new twist about my book. If I've seen your book 10 times and I've decided, you know what, it's not the book that I'm into right now,
Mhm.
other 10 videos is not going to do it for me. But if I get to know you, the author, through your content, through, the way that you talk about yourself, whether you're talking about the author side of things, the reader side of things, the human side of things, I know you, there's a chance that I'm actually going to be interested in you. And then when you say, hey, here's my book, it's not like I'm invested beyond the, oh, this is a really cool trope list, or here's this
You're
saucy
right.
scene, or whatever the case is. Like, that
Yeah.
stuff has no depth and therefore no connection
Right.
beyond like the hope that someone really is like, oh, I'm in a mood to buy and I'm going to go buy this, or oh, this goes viral and I get a bunch of people. But kind of understanding the means of what social media really means. It's a way to connect with people. So figure out how to be in the space and connect with people.
Yeah. Right.
That's a huge one. And then go make your book look like the best book on the shelf. Go find the book that is the closest to your book in tone and style, and make your cover look 85% identical. Make it just different enough that you can be like, nope, it's my own cover. But if anybody
Stand out.
looks at
Yeah.
it, so this is a big reason behind Darkblade's success. With Darkblade, I showed the artist the 5 most assassin covers on the market, right? Like, assassin on the front with swords, hoods, whatever the case is, and I was like, do this but better. He did an amazing job. And
Yeah.
now anybody who looks at it, there's no question in their mind what this book is about.
100%.
So
Yeah.
the branding is super important to get right. So
Mm.
so go and spend time researching branding aspects in terms of the cover design, the blurb, the titles, all of that. And also how to be a good human being on social media and connect with people as part of the community while building your newsletter. Then, learn the ins and outs of advertising and save up to spend some money on ads, and you got the best chance of success.
There you go. There you go. I mean, there's a lot, definitely a lot in there. That's a bullet point list of things I'm doing wrong or have done wrong.
So
For
am
you know,
slash have
hey,
I.
for anyone who's seen my social media, I mean, that is exactly what my social media looks like. It is 3 variations of me holding up my book and saying this is what my book is about. But I do that, consciously knowing that, yeah, it's not the best way to do social media. It is sometimes it's all you have time to do, as when you're working, full time and that sort of thing. You start where you can and you do what you can. Um, yeah, but I mean, all of these things build up to your brand, really. So, like, I mean, you have done a fantastic job with your social media, with your covers, with your newsletter, building the brand of who you are as an author, and of course, your readers are going to resonate with that and know who you are and be interested when you have book 11 coming out. They're
Yeah.
still there. They're still around, right?
Yeah.
Readers aren't going to stick around for book 11 if they pick up book 1 and they're disappointed because the branding was wrong, right? And then not even necessarily that it was a bad book. It just didn't meet their expectations. You didn't get the right customer for book 1. You might have sold them 1 book, but you're not going to sell them 11, right? So,
Yeah. And so
yeah.
so you see this a lot where people, they come out of the gates hard with a book one. Let's say they went viral and they have a big audience, and their book one drops. The cover is, it hits all the right notes, then the series doesn't go anywhere because the book one cover was the wrong thing. Let's say you make a romantasy cover and it turns out the book is a dark fantasy or an action adventure or a sci-fi, who knows what, right? It's the wrong thing. So a book one that sells like gangbusters doesn't necessarily mean that book two is going to sell well. And so you have to figure out, as you know, part of the whole author journey is how to make your book one as on brand as possible so that book two, hopefully write a good enough book one that people want to continue. The book two is just more of the same, and then book three is more of the same. Like when
Yes.
authors, I do understand why authors, they change the tone of the books a bit, because you know maybe the book one idea, it was explored and then done and has to be changed in a little bit. But I think if you can
Hmm.
figure out how to keep the books fairly consistent tonally, you have a really good chance of keeping people invested throughout the entire series.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and you've got a lot of leeway with story if you keep the tone in the same place for, for a series, right? Yeah, very cool. Well, Andy, I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. Where I think we're going to wrap up there, though. For people who are listening, you mentioned you have a novella coming out in June. Give us again where they can find that novella.
That one's going to be on my website. It's just andypeloquin.com. It is set between Queen of Thieves 1 and 2, so you'll have to read Queen of Thieves and then, you know, the other prequel novella. But the title is A Mother's Love, and the opening line is A Mother's Love is a dangerous thing. It is grimdark, fucked up body horror in a really fun way.
Okay.
That is somehow both weirdly magical and also incredibly low magic like the rest of the world. But it's a really, I wrote this one as a Kickstarter. I did a Kickstarter where one of the tiers that I offered was write a novel with me, where somebody, you know, they
Right. I
basically,
remember
we
that. Yeah.
brainstormed an idea, and the end result was amazing. So it's one of the
Awesome.
the stories that I enjoyed writing the most.
That's awesome. Well, I look forward to that. And I will definitely link all of your socials, your newsletter, your website in the or in the comment section below. Go check it out. People go and find out how to do a newsletter, how to do your social media. Andy is got it all figured out. Obviously.
Definitely all figured out. No room for improvement.
I mean, there's always room to improve, right? That's why we keep doing this. But like I said before, I always enjoy your social media posts. You reach,
Yeah.
you definitely know how to reach your target readers, and I think that's so important. And I think sometimes hard to do as authors because maybe not thinking about things from a reader's perspective. So I think it is a good example of how authors can approach those things. So go check those out. Thank you once again, Andy. This was tons of fun, and I hope we get to chat again here soon.
My absolute pleasure.